So we made that about a year and a half ago, and I thought it would flow nicely with today's topic. I'll let you decide in the cliffhanger whether I'm alive or not. Anyway, today's video should have released on May the 4th because Star Wars. It just depends on how tired, sweaty, and determined I was to knock it out. It is currently May 1st, and it is 1 in the morning, so we'll see if I can get that done in time. As the title of this video suggests, I rewatched Star Wars Episode 3 for the first time in 20 years. Well, okay, that's a lie. It's been about 15 years since I've seen it in its entirety. That was all the way back in 2010 on Spike TV. Does anyone actually remember that network? I mean, there was Bar Rescue, 1,000 Ways to Die, and TNA were peak programming. And good God, is it getting hot. Disney bought everyone's favorite intellectual property, metaphorically ripping the nipple away, stole all the breast milk, and then used that milk to create projects that get more and more and more diluted every time until eventually watching something that looks like a worse version of Spy Kids, and suddenly you're like, oh, I'd rather be watching Spy Kids anyway. Speaking of nipples, I hope mine does not fly during this video, because this thing is loose. A young Adrian watched episode 3 on Spike TV for the first time and thought it was the greatest thing ever. That led to a deep dive into Star Wars lore, books, shows, games, all of it. That fandom still continues today. Ah! I hope it shows up purple. And I won't be talking about all that in this video, sorry. Maybe in the future I'll do like a giant deep dive where I cover the additional Star Wars media, but for now, I just want to talk about this one movie in a bubble. This one won't be as researched as previous videos, it's more opinionated, so feel free to angrily, actually me in the comments. I just want to explore this one question. If you were to watch this movie from start to finish today, would it still be entertaining as a standalone? But ooh, I'm thinking maybe a Clone Wars retrospective or The Force Unleashed. Yeah. Y'all let me know what Star Wars stuff you want to see in the future, and maybe I'll make it. God only knows how long that'll take. The film starts off with a giant action set piece. That's where we're introduced to our two main characters, Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, master and apprentice, though they act a little bit more like brothers. We're smack deep in the middle of a multi-year conflict called the Clone Wars. On one side, you got the Republic and their clone army. On the other side, the Separatists and their drone army. We're reaching the tail end of the war. Anakin and Obi-Wan are on a mission to rescue Chancellor Palpatine from the Separatist leader, Count Dooku. Something I've noticed during this rewatch, which I saw in a theater with literally 5 other people instead of at my home, where yes, I have a freaking home theater, and Disney Plus, is just how fast this film moves. Like really fast. For better or for worse, within the first 20 minutes, Anakin and Obi-Wan make it to the Chancellor's room, defeat the main villain from the last movie, and save Palpatine. And just when it seems like we're getting off the ship and heading home, there's a surprise. Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Palpatine are recaptured, this time by General Grievous, the only really true Separatist leader left. He looks cool. He was clearly made to sell toys. Now, let's pause and take a minute to talk about the downside of the movie pacing. Characters like Grievous don't really get a chance to leave an impact. This is the first time we're meeting him in the films, unless you've gone out of your way to watch additional Star Wars content, and let's be real, most people, most American audiences won't unless they're super fans. You're just going to think, wow, he has 4 lightsabers, that's kind of cool, and then you're gonna immediately move on with your life. It becomes hard to care about new characters. I feel like George Lucas created Grievous in hope that the cool factor would distract us from the lazy writing, which sucks because if he had been given more time and better structure, I feel like movie Grievous could have been as calculating and terrifying as Darth Vader. But the way the movie is structured now, he's fine, I guess. Still watch the Clone Wars when you get the chance. Seriously, it is. Let's switch to something positive for a second. The relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan. What's up, y'all? You may have noticed that I'm in a different shirt. It's because I lost half of this footage, so I missed this entire section. So we're gonna do it in this and pretend like I'm still, you know, Jedi themed because it's too hot right now to put that entire outfit back on. In just the first 20 minutes, it's obvious how much Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen genuinely liked each other. The way that they bounce off of each other, the snappy dialogue, it's clear that they've been working on these movies together for a while, and that real life friendship totally shines through. Honestly, a live action buddy cop Star Wars story where they just go around solving crimes and fighting bad guys would be so interesting. Oh wait, they already freaking did that in the Clone Wars animated series. Y'all go watch that show. It's really good.
I never thought that it'd be so simple, but I found a way,
Anyway, after fighting off Grievous's minions, the trio crash lands on Coruscant. Once there, Anakin reunites with his secret wife Padme. Obi-Wan checks in with the Jedi Council and Palpatine goes off to do Senate stuff. Padme and Anakin have a quiet romantic moment after being apart for a while, and it's really sweet, but then they start ruining it by talking, because when it comes to actually articulating their love for each other, Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman have zero chemistry. Everything about the romance feels artificial, wooden, and awkward. When these prequels were first released, Hayden Christensen got a bad rap for being an incompetent actor, which I don't think is fair. He's a fine actor, but if you had to read Shakespeare in the part-ass dialogue with space themes surrounding it, yeah, I'm pretty sure that there is a short list of actors who could make that halfway work. There's this great interview where Harrison Ford talks about threatening George Lucas because of how terrible his dialogue was. That was before Star Wars became the pop culture empire it is now. Back then, Lucas didn't have the untouchable status he would later gain, but by the time the prequels came out, it was basically impossible for anyone to challenge his vision. George Lucas can't write dialogue that sounds like actual people talking to each other. Padme reveals to Anakin that she's pregnant. This brings him joy, but it also sets up his eternal conflict, the pressure of being a father, his Jedi responsibilities, and the visions of Padme dying in childbirth. The next day, Anakin meets with Palpatine, who makes him his personal Jedi representative, slowly pushing Anakin closer into his orbit while continuing to wedge a divide between him and the Jedi Order. Anakin tells the Jedi Council about this appointment. They reluctantly agree to it, but even though Anakin is the war hero who just defeated Count Dooku, they still won't grant him the title of Jedi Master. That, on top of the Jedi Council asking Anakin to spy on Palpatine, yeah, he starts to get real disillusioned with them. Anakin also isn't allowed to join in the mission to face Grievous. Obi-Wan is instead given that task instead. It just feels like pure plot convenience. The story needed to separate Anakin and Obi-Wan so that the rest of the film could happen. And in case you somehow didn't know, Anakin becomes Darth Vader. Whoa, spoiler for a movie that's 2 decades old in a near 50-year-old series. It is frustrating because we, the audience, just got used to seeing Anakin and Obi-Wan working as a team, and that chemistry was genuinely fun and engaging. Now that they're split up and their dynamics go out the window, we do get a nice character moment before everything goes sideways. The last time that they see each other, Anakin and Obi-Wan share a heartfelt moment talking about what they mean to each other. There's even like this beautiful visual metaphor. Anakin is covered in shadow, foreshadowing his fall to the dark side, while Obi-Wan is bathed in light, like the ultimate Jedi who never strayed, who never turned his back on the Order. In the moment, it felt like a genuine "I appreciate you" conversation. With the benefit of hindsight, it's kind of tragic. At the beginning of the movie, it's made clear that together they're nearly unstoppable. Now that they're forced to go their separate ways, how strong are they apart? I say still pretty damn strong. Obi-Wan travels to Utapau, finds Grievous. Hello there. General Kenobi. Obi-Wan eventually defeats General Grievous, which, if you haven't seen any other Star Wars media, is kind of a meh moment. He wasn't previously mentioned in the previous films, and now he gets only about 10 minutes of screen time and dies. But if you watched the shows or read the books, it's infuriating. Grievous was such a cool character outside the movies, and here, he just feels like he was wasted. The upside though, we get to see Grievous's droid army versus Obi-Wan's clone army, which gives us like a fun, over-the-top, early 2000s blockbuster vibe. The CGI still holds up. If the movie dropped tomorrow, I think it could probably go toe-to-toe with something that's being released today. Yoda, he heads off to the Wookiee planet of Kashyyyk to help defend it from the Separatists. At this point, it looks like the Republic might actually win the war. Count Dooku is dead, General Grievous is dead, and the remaining Separatist figurehead leadership is stuck on Mustafar. But plot twist, they're not, because Chancellor Palpatine is evil, of course, you can kind of tell, constantly preying on Anakin's insecurities. Every interaction between Anakin and Palpatine just nudges Anakin closer to the dark side. Palpatine promises that through the dark side, Anakin, he can save Padme, he can get a cool red lightsaber, and that boy can have sex. Yeah. I don't know why it turned dude bro-y there for a second. The music during these scenes gets darker, more somber. You can feel Anakin's slow descent. I would love to play the music for you here, but say it with me, everyone. Copyright fucking sucks. The thing is, Anakin has legit problems. He needs someone to talk to instead of the Jedi who named him the Chosen One, treats him like an annoying pet. No support, no empathy, no real mentorship. It's honestly baffling. At this point, any manipulative old guy could have just recruited him. Eventually, during one of the conversations, Anakin finally realizes Palpatine is the Sith Lord, which, dog, it took you long enough. Says to him point blank, the power you need to save your wife cannot be learned not from a Jedi, which is like, hey boy, hey idiot, hey fella, I'm fucking evil, I'm the Sith Lord. It's almost as obvious as when Aunt May figured out Peter Parker was Spider-Man in the Tobey Maguire trilogy, and Aunt May's over here just like, it's like Henry need a hero. I wish Spider-Man could help, which should have just been, look you little bitch, go put that mask on and go defeat that tentacle monster or something. So Anakin runs into Mace Windu. He tells him like, hey, the Chancellor, yeah, he's a Sith Lord. The Clone Wars, that was his idea. And then Windu gathers up a squad of elite Jedi Masters. Which isn't fair because in the Clone Wars they were very badass, but this is the only point of reference you would have if you watched the movies, so they're bad. And tells Anakin to stay behind while he deals with him. Windu confronts Palpatine, they fight, it's intense, and just when it looks like Windu might just win, Anakin interferes because he believes Palpatine is the only person who can save Padme. He cuts off Windu's arm and then blah blah, unlimited power! Palpatine throws Windu out the window, and just like that, Anakin becomes Darth Vader, Palpatine's new apprentice. Of course Anakin aligns with Sidious. Even though he was manipulating Anakin, he was the only person to ever treat Anakin with respect, to actually listen to his problems. The only one who would actually offer him any sort of chance of helping to save Padme. Anakin turning his back on everything he loved for the woman he loves and the children that he will potentially love in the future is wonderfully tragic and bittersweet, even if it's done a little bit clunky. Hayden Christensen, when he's conflicted, oh, is he wonderful. When the script actually allows him to act instead of reading lines that sounds like an AI. This man is flawless. The non-verbal range he shows from what have I done to, what do I do now? I have to protect Padme is incredible. You can see the panic, the dread, the spiraling in his eyes. There's no going back and he knows it. After pledging himself to Darth Sidious, Anakin is set to storm the Jedi Temple and kill everyone, including the children. He heads off to Mustafar to eliminate the remaining Separatist leaders. Sidious's logic is only one Jedi survived. They could rally the galaxy and undo the Empire before it begins. That includes Obi-Wan. Anakin agrees because at this point, he wasn't thinking straight. He's irrationally thinking about saving Padme. It's the old saying of, how far would you go to save the person that you love? Then we hit one of the most gut-wrenching, tragic, and memorable moments of the entire trilogy and arguably the entire franchise. Order 66. Palpatine gives the command, clones across the galaxy instantly turn on their Jedi generals. If you've only seen the movies, it's like, dang, that sucks. The soldiers turn on them, and then you kind of just move on. But if you've seen the Clone Wars or read any of the expanded universe stuff, it hits way harder. We've been conditioned to see Jedi as space gods, wise, powerful, nigh untouchable, and the clones, they were their brother in arms, some even close friends, but with a single phrase, the inhibitor chips factory resets them. Personality, it's gone. Loyalty, it's gone. Individuality, it's gone. They become mindless soldiers, and it's tragic because we know that these clones, while genetically identical, were still people. They had names, quirks, bonds, but in the movie alone, it plays out like, robots against pseudo-robots. There's no emotional investment. The clones are given zero personality, so it's hard to care. That is where I get pissed, because you can tell the prequels didn't have a solid narrative plan beyond Anakin has to become Darth Vader eventually. That's it. So we get characters that are introduced that are cool, like Mace Windu and General Grievous, absolute powerhouses with insane potential, and the movies just toss them aside. No depth, no backstory, no emotional payoff. They're there for a few cool lightsaber moments, and then they're gone. Can we take a second to appreciate how over the top and campy Palpatine is? Like, as a kid, I was straight up like, no, not the bad man, stop Anakin, he's evil. As an adult, man, the Jedi never really stood a chance. This guy is hilariously charismatic. He's out here going, no, 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 you have lost unlimited power. I sound like the snail lady from Monsters Inc. Mike Wazowski. Meanwhile, the Jedi are all like, be calm, be emotionless, be boring. If Mace Windu had channeled a little bit more Samuel L. Jackson inside of him and hit Anakin with a, don't listen to that motherfucker. He old, he crusty, and he gets no bitches. I'm tired of these motherfucking Siths on this motherfucking galaxy. We might have been able to save the entire galaxy, but no. Ian McDiarmid absolutely is devouring every scene, and it only takes a metaphorical saying of, I can save your wife, be evil, get a red lightsaber, rule the galaxy, pull all the space coochies, to turn Anakin to the dark side. When I was watching the movie in theaters, there was this little girl who just out of nowhere, she was like, did he just kill all the children? Why would he do that? When Anakin, you know, did that thing that he does to the younglings, which is just, it's just chef's kiss, peak cinema. Seeing the clone troopers who were just shoulder to shoulder with Jedi flip like a light switch during Order 66, still absolutely insane. No hesitation, no remorse. Even now, still gripping to watch. Of course, now my dog Yoda though, that little green menace is untouchable. This is why we green screening, cuz. You dog. Also, so I can, it doesn't matter. After the massacre, only Yoda and Obi-Wan are our only unscreened Jedi that remain. They regroup and return to the temple to warn any remaining Jedi, don't come here. It's a trap. Inside the ruins, they learn the trust Anakin led the assault. He killed everyone. It's decided that Yoda will face Sidious and Obi-Wan will confront Anakin. Obi-Wan protests. He asks Yoda to take on Anakin because he doesn't want to fight his brother, but we and he both know that's suicide. Yoda versus Anakin, that's not a fight, that's a war crime because Green Giant, he gon' do him up. So Obi-Wan reluctantly agrees, but let's be honest, this whole setup feels like plot convenience. From a tactical point of view, Obi-Wan and Yoda had this upper hand. No one knew that they were still alive, so why not team up, take down Sidious together, and then deal with Anakin? I know why, because it's more emotionally gripping, but from a writing standpoint, it is a bit dumb. Obi-Wan heads to Padme's place on Coruscant to break the news. He just comes in there and be like, your husband just committed mass murder, and yeah, he's gonna get trouble, and he's probably about to, you know. She doesn't believe him. She realizes Obi-Wan's going to kill Anakin and races off to Mustafar. Obi-Wan stows away on her ship, but not before dropping like the softest bomb ever. I know about you and Anakin. I know he's the father. I'm sorry, but this has to be done. When Anakin senses that the ship's arriving, we get a silent moment. Just him, his face, a tear, no dialogue, anger, resentment, chaos, regret. The score shifts into something somber, and it's clear there is no going back at all. Padme tries to reason with him, but Anakin lost, consumed by greed, by fear, by rage. He thinks she's betrayed him. This moment when they're screaming at each other, it's the first time that they actually feel like real people, not like robots spitting out dialogue written by a 13-year-old Wattpad fantasies. And it's tragic. Padme, one of the most badass characters in the extended universe, is completely sidelined here. She deserved better than, I'm pregnant and sad and I don't know what to do, because we know she's so much more. She's clever, she's confident, she's capable. Obi-Wan arrives just in time to keep Anakin from killing her, and then we get the greatest lightsaber duel in the Star Wars franchise. As a kid, this fight was my entire personality. As an adult, it's still the best fight in Star Wars. The athleticism, the visuals, the theme of ultimate offense versus ultimate defense, they are both equally matched. Each swing feels like it in the battle. It's every step is personal. It's an art form. It's a crazy, beautiful recipe for an entertaining course of lightsaber dueling. And yes, I'm aware that that was corny as fuck because I wrote the fucking thing, but it doesn't matter. We flip over to Yoda versus Sidious. Their fight isn't bad, not at all. They're like older statements, both convinced that their side is the true righteous one. It's powerful in its own right. A clash of ideologies, of apprentices, of visions, and galaxies. It ends in a stalemate, which honestly works as a metaphor. The old guard locked in an endless war. Good versus evil, Jedi versus Sith. No end in sight unless something drastic happens. Yoda escapes to live another day, and then we see Anakin loses. Obi-Wan Obi-Wan cuts off his limbs, leaving him burning alive on a slope of lava. I still question to this day, how the fuck did that get the PG-13 rating? Dude was literally getting burned alive. We get the, "You are the chosen one. You're supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them. Bring balance to the Force, not leave it all in darkness." It was devastating. Not just because of what's happening, but because you see it in Obi-Wan's face. This isn't just his apprentice. This was his brother. No, this was his son. And now he's the one who had to put him down. Ewan McGregor doesn't get enough credit. He carried the prequels. Grounded, it was steady, it was heartfelt. In a galaxy full of CGI and aliens, he's the emotional anchor. I'm really glad he got another chance to act in this series. Up to this point, Obi-Wan had been the perfect Jedi. He did everything that was required of him. He followed the orders. He believed in the Force. And the one time he decides to not act like a Jedi, he didn't finish off Anakin. And what happens? He accidentally unleashes an angry, more pissed off version of Darth Vader to run amok across the galaxy. A true Jedi, I feel, would have put Anakin out of his misery. And you could even make the theory that the reason Obi-Wan aged so horribly between the end of episode 3 to the beginning of episode 4 is because he felt responsible for everything that Anakin did and everything Darth Vader would go on to do. This was their best chance to stop him, and he couldn't do it because he loved him so much. Sure, it all works out in the end eventually, but in this moment, I feel it was a reckless strategic move. Obi-Wan leaves Anakin burning alive without confirming the kill, gets on Padme's ship, and takes her to some distant planet. She's going into labor earlier. She's not gonna make it. Why? Because her will to live has been completely shattered. Still, even in her last moments, Padme truly believes that there's still good in Anakin. And then we get this amazing parallel scene, Anakin being reborn as Darth Vader, all mechanical and horrifying, while on the opposite side you have Luke and Leia who are born into the galaxy. Padme dies. Luke and Leia are split up to keep things hidden because, you know, they're the children of the most powerful Jedi who ever lived, and that may be a little bit alarming, I don't know. Leia gets sent off with Bail Organa to Alderaan. Luke ends up in the galaxy's version of the Midwest, Tatooine, with Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. Obi-Wan stays behind watching over Luke from a distance. Meanwhile, Vader gets the news that he killed Padme in his rage. That breaks him and pisses him off. The film ends with Vader and the Emperor overseeing the construction of the Death Star, while Obi-Wan watches over Luke under the twin suns. Anytime I think about this series, I always come back to the same question. What if Anakin Skywalker didn't turn? I know in the grand scheme of things it had to happen, but in a bubble, I just wish things were different, like we got an alternate ending. Every single time I watch this movie, I still hope irrationally that somehow Anakin finds his way back to the light sooner so he and Padme and his children can all live together happily. It's like in Halo Reach. No matter how many times I replay it, part of me still hopes that I can change the ending of Noble Six dying. And those kind of stories where you know you can't change the outcome, those are the most tragic and I feel the most compelling. As a single movie, Revenge of the Sith is really engaging. Sure, some of the acting in that weird Shakespearean dialogue can be a little extra, but everything else is a masterclass, and those last 30 to 40 minutes of the movie are just peak cinema. As a Star Wars fan who had the benefit of hindsight, this film adds so much to the overall lore. But what if you don't have that background knowledge? If someone just walks into the movie blind, not knowing anything about Star Wars, would it still hold up? I would say kinda, yeah. You'd have to do a bunch of mental gymnastics and just accept some stuff that the film doesn't really have time to acknowledge. But at its core, this is a story about a well-respected space samurai soldier who finds out that his wife is pregnant, panics, feels alienated, makes a deal with the devil, betrays everything he believes in and everyone that believed in him, and loses it all. He has to live with those consequences. And I feel that that's universal. Anyone can understand that. It's just a little clunky getting there. Is this the best Star Wars movie? Probably not. But is it a good movie? Absolutely. Rewatching this movie for the first time in decades, it was such a fun little ride. There's something really interesting about going back to old media that you loved as a kid and realizing, okay, maybe it's not as flawless as you remember, but you can still love it. You can still appreciate it. It's okay to be an adult who points out the flaws and still enjoys the things that you enjoy. After over 15 years, I can honestly to say, yeah, there are glaring problems, but it's still a really solid movie. In a bubble, I think it stands the test of time. And when you connect it to like the expanded Star Wars universe, it's kind of perfect. I don't know, man. There's nothing I can say about this movie that your favorite internet personality hasn't already said. I really enjoyed it. Here's to hoping I'll enjoy it again at the 40th anniversary. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate every single one of you who made it this far. If you feel inclined, a like, a sub, a tap on the bell notification, it really helps out. Drop some of your favorite Star Wars moments in the comments. Let me know what you think of Revenge of the Sith. I'm sure I pissed off some of you Star Wars fans, and I'd love to hear your theories and your thoughts on it. Links to my Instagram, Discord, and Patreons are down in this description. As always, gents, lady gents, and non-binary gents, and Star Wars gents, may the 4th be with you.